Make me fat.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order on March 4th, 2025. May we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Bacon. Mr. Baoki.
Present.
Mr. DeCosta.
Present.
Mr. Erbaldinger.
Present.
Mr. Fosbrink.
Present.
Mr. Lawrence.
Present.
President Martin.
Present.
Mayor Porca.
Present.
Right, all present, Madam President.
Thank you. Gentlemen, would you like to stand up at the podium? Thank you.
Good evening. Once again, I'm Frank Lipinski, and I am President and CEO of Ameriserv Wealth Advisors. I've been on your account for over 15 years now. Time flies. We also have Mike Stem. He is your administrator on the account. He does all the legal work. Numbers aren't good. He'll come out by himself. So
Oh, that's good news.
if we go to tab 1, take a look first at the police pension account in tab 1. Point your attention to the top left-hand corner. You'll see a pie. The color green is the largest shaded color in the pie, and that denotes your equity or your stock exposure. At the end of the year, you had 8,435,000 or 63.4% in the stock market. The red, which is fixed income, you had 4.6 million in the fixed income market, and the money market, you had about 1.9%. We take a look down the right-hand corner of this page. We'll go through the performance for last year. Started out with 11,624,000. Net outflows, any money coming in versus any money leaving of 186,000 was left the account. The account generated a dollar return of 1,868,000. And that is a 16.45% gross return. So you had a really nice return last year. The account returned to 16.03 net of fees, and the index was 16.26. Strong return. Turn to the next page. This is a historical picture. And if you look down the very bottom of the left-hand corner of the page, you'll see a date, 8/31/2009. Down left-hand, that's when this account started over 15 years ago. So if we take a look where it says the inception column in the middle of the page, on 8/31/2009, you start out with 3,914,000. Once again, the money coming in versus money leaving, we had a net outflow of 1,008,000. The account generated a total return in dollars over 15 plus years of 10,400,000. That was a 9.78% return annually over that time period. Gross, 9.5 net versus index 935. Questions on that account? We'll turn to tab 2. It's the employee pension account. Again, managed very similar. If you take a look at the pie up in the left-hand top corner, you'll see that 2.6 million was in equity or the stock market. That's a green shaded. The fixed income was 1,455,000, almost 35%, and cash money market was 1.8 at 74,350. If we take a look down the right-hand corner, we'll go through the performance for last year. The market value started out at 3,900,000. 323,828 flowed out of the account. The account generated 610,000 last year, which once again was 16.43% gross, 1599 net. The index is 1619, so it did very well again. Any questions on that? And then finally, the inception period. Once again, same time period. We started 8/31/2009. Started out with 1,646,420. Net outflows of 1,323,000 occurred over the 15 years. It generated 3,863,000, 9.86% annually. Questions? Oh, on behalf of myself, yes, sir.
I have one question. What's your opinion on customers telling you we want to be green?
Do that, what it happens is it eliminates a lot of growth potential. And I'll use a comparison like Catholic funds versus ESG. There's not a lot of ESG investments available or Catholic funds available. So and a lot of people do go to those levels, but then the S&P, which is much more growth oriented, you would not keep up with it at all. I mean, you wouldn't have the growth in the portfolio that you have now. But if you wanted to, we could definitely go that route.
Thank you for your work in keeping this return pretty solid for
Thanks,
us.
sir.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you see, what do you think the outlook is for this
A
coming
lot
year?
of-
I mean, should we not be is he just coming next year? Or-
Yeah, it probably will be next year. So we hit a high in the stock market. All the indexes basically hit a high on February 19th of this year. So we had a good return first month and a half in the market. And then when President Trump started talking about his tariffs coming out, and tariffs really aren't a bad thing. What he's trying to do with a lot of his tariffs is he wants, for example, up in Canada, there's minerals up there that he wants. So he's going to put this very high tariff on them, supposedly. And he wants to try to negotiate that down to hopefully get some of their minerals up there. Same thing with Mexico. We want product from Mexico, and he's going to put a very high tariff. Now, China's all different story. We're going to hit them with tariffs no matter what. So tariffs don't cause inflation that a lot of people think. Actually, if tariffs cause higher prices, you're going to try and find an alternative product to that price, or you're not going to buy it. So they call it deflationary. It's actually going to bring prices down. Tariffs bring prices down, doesn't elevate the inflation. I think the tariffs, people are overreacting right now with what's going on. As long as the war, and he really wants to bring both wars to a close, both up in Ukraine and with Israel, because they have oil reserves there. And if they could drill more, that's going to bring the price of oil down. If they bring the price of oil down in these countries, then again, the inflation is going to come back down to around 2% from where it's at now. So the tariffs are probably the main item that shouldn't impact over the full year very strong, as long as we don't break out into any other wars. That's my biggest concern, is the wars. That praying, like we saw what happened when the president came down and the way he talked to him, but we'll see about that. But otherwise, I think we should possibly end up with a 9 to 10% return in the stock market. The last 2 years, 23 and 24, the stock market returned almost 50%, the S&P. That's phenomenal when you should really only earn about 9% annually. So we lived a very large 2 years in investment arena. So this year we get around a 10% return. Sorry.
It's not your fault.
If we get around a 10% return in the market with everything going on, I think that's going to be a very good return this year, 9 to 10%. We'll see after tonight how he's talking tonight on TV.
Yeah. It's supposed to start tonight.
It's going to be very, very volatile, to answer your question. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, today the markets crashed and then the NASDAQ came way back up to positive and finished off. So such volatility, even day by day. Yeah. I'm really getting paid to worry nowadays. So.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts in terms of, have you done any kind of modeling or projecting in terms of, potential employees now hitting the pension fund does that then call for a reevaluation of how the stocks are being invested?
Well, that really.
'Cause that
depends-
concerns me, right? So we have a couple of folks on the police department, we have a couple of folks in public works. They're gonna start making their exit and transitioning. Time frame is a little bit up in the air, but the volatility in the market also kind of concerns me, right? 'Cause I always anticipate we'll have a terrible market in the stocks and then everybody's gonna want to hit the pension right then and there, right? So how do we plan for that?
Well, that comes back to the actuary that if he or she believes that your total return should be 7% to cover payouts, you know, you've been over more than covering your payouts, especially if it's only a few. 5 people going to hit all at one time, then that might be, actually we have to go back to the actuary and say, are we taking on too much risk? Because now we have to ratchet it back to even preserve. But again, normally in the pension plans, if you could earn around 7% annually, that normally would cover the payouts. Unless you have a large amount of people, but that goes back to your actuary that would give you that number if you're funded enough that way.
I have a related question to Frank's. Like normal people, when they get older, closer to their retirement, they shift or they're supposed to shift from stock to fixed income. Like based on information you would learn from our actuary, would you do the same, shift towards fixed income?
To be honest with you, I would let the markets dictate that. If like your balance objective right now is about 64% in the stock market. That's, balance is 50-50. So you're on the upper end. So if I believe that, we're going to go into a recession, we're all wrong this year, I could bring you back to 50%. But remember that in a pension plan, you have older and younger employees. So by staying in the middle of the road, you're covering both ends without opening yourselves up to a lawsuit for favoring one side and not the other. Now when you're a 401k plan, it's a good thing to do when you get close to retirement, start ratcheting back your own personal risk.
But you're right, you're only one person.
Pardon?
You're correct. I'm only one person, but you have like 10 or whatever people in
Correct.
different ages. Makes sense.
That's why we kind of stay in the middle of the road, makes everybody happy. But if the actuary, let's say we weren't in the middle of the road, let's say we're at 30% and you're having all these other employees retiring soon, the actuary will say, wow, you're underfunded. You're not going to make the payouts. You need to have more growth. Either have more growth in your portfolio from me, or you end up funding it more from your side. And we want to try and prevent that. We'd rather have the growth. So.
Are pension funds insured in any way?
That would be a question for your actuary because everybody is a little different. There's no insurance with us. Your insurance with us is the investments are all in your name as Forest Hills. So if our bank or company would go belly up, that doesn't affect you at all because it's all in your name here. You would just transfer your assets to another investment house. But there's no pension guaranteed on this account.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Lipinski.
Thank you. And on behalf of myself and Mike and Mayor Serf, thank you for your business. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Doesn't look like we have anyone for public comment. So we'll be moving on then. I have no remarks this evening, so we should move to operations. Mr. Lawrence?
Thank you, Madam President. I only have one thing to bring up. This is a follow-up. In the beginning of December, in this same meeting, I spent about 5 minutes talking about the status of WIMS and the other fundraising approach has kind of gotten dusty over the last several years. So I'm going to, as I outlined in detail last month, talk to the board about reevaluating how they're coming to the municipalities and asking for money. In particular, what I'd like them to do is come to us not with, we want more money. And I think we all understand they need more money, but come to us with, these are our projections. These are our costs. They do have some threats with change in Medicare rules that could cause them problems. They're having recruitment problems. But I want us all to see numbers. What does this come out to? We need, to be blunt, they've got a $200,000 excess revenue or surplus or profit, whatever you want to call it. That's not enough. But on the other hand, it's the best shape they've been in ages. They're feeling comfortable about things. I will bring two things up. In the last 6 months, I worked with them on designing a PTO policy to get rid of an archaic vacation sick leave policy that was written somewhere in the dark ages. And they also feel comfortable enough that they did a reevaluation of their wage scale. And a little bit of a bump. Now, we're not competitive with others out there, but we're making a statement. And in both cases, the wage scale and the PTO plan was designed to make it attractive to younger people who probably will not have long tenure at the place. Or that if they come in at year 1, year 2, there's an incentive to stay at year 3, year 4, because that's about when everyone's moving on in year 4. So I think they're in good shape compared to where it's been. And I think they've got leadership that's thinking forward. But my goal is for them to sit down and really think, how do you want to come to us and ask for money? You just don't put your hat out. No one believes that they don't need more money, but I think you all, and every municipality needs to see solid numbers. So that's what I'll be doing next week. Yes.
Mr. Lawrence, well, first, I just wanted to tell everyone that Mr. Lawrence has been meeting on his own outside of the regular meetings to help them develop a plan and also better tips on fundraising and getting some additional funds in. Do you have any idea when they would be coming?
I would think it's going to take them I think it's going to take them a couple months to get the numbers. I mean, you really only got two. You got Frank Mastandrea, the chief cook and bottle washer there. He's running a whole operation. I think he's going to need help getting those numbers together. So I would anticipate it would be late spring is my guess. I'm going to ask them to come to, the month after this to say, what are your thoughts on when you can get this together? Yeah, sir.
Do they have any idea what their goal is for reserves at this point, or they're not even there yet?
That's what I want to talk to them about.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. You built up a $200,000 reserve, but that's not enough.
Right.
What do you need? That's what I want. I think you guys need to hear from them. This is where we should be to be comfortable and sleep at night. And I don't believe they have that. I think it's available out there. There's an awful lot of these places. Some of them are doing better. So I'm sure there's best practice numbers available, but no, they don't. Else?
Well, I know council is dedicated to adding more money in, but as I talked with Mr. Abrams, do you care to comment on that when we'd be ready, maybe?
When we're ready, will actually really depend on how the rest of the first quarter and into the second quarter as we start getting tax revenues, see how the salt ends up. But as was council's decision at the end of the calendar year during budget season, we're going to try and hold back somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 at a minimum, and make sure that would be available. Too early to make projections yet. I think everyone just got their tax bills
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, everybody's happy about that.
I do want to add, it's very important to understand, I am not in any way and should not in any way be proposing what we give them. They should be coming to us and say, this is what we need. And then the 7 members of council with the advice of the manager can say, this is what we can or can't do. So I want you to be very clear about that. I'm just trying to set them on a path to say, this is how you should be doing it. That's all. I have nothing else for the committee.
No questions? Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Then we're moving on to the Finance Committee. Mr. Erbaldinger, did you
I
have
have
anything?
nothing to report.
Thank you. Borough Property, Mr. DeCrosta?
Yeah, so the one thing we have tonight is this consideration of the resolution to adopt initiatives to be recognized as a bird town through the Bird Town PA program. I know we discussed this previously, so I just wanted to, we got to put it out there once again, see if we want to add it to the agenda for our business meeting.
Comments on that? Or are we all pretty much okay with that? Looks like everybody's okay.
Good, good. Okay. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Then we will be moving that to the business meeting. Thanks. Okay, again, Mr. DeCosta, Planning and Zoning, please.
Yeah, nothing formal to report, except I just want to let everyone know that conversations about the Westinghouse Atom Smasher site and Drew's Restaurant are underway with the owners, and we're just gathering information at this point, so I'll keep you updated, but I'm just glad to have some of that started.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Then we're moving on to Public Works. Mr. Fosbrink.
Thank you. Consideration of an amendment to the right-of-way agreement between PennDOT and the borough is on our agenda, but I would prefer to defer to Mr. Abrams to speak on that.
So we recently received from PennDOT a request to amend the right of way, which is specifically the area where they were working during the 2021 culvert redo, where it involved part of the stone wall in front of Main Park. And when they originally did the agreement, there were some estimates on location. So this amendment is strictly to firm up the exact location, doesn't change the square footage. It literally, I think, shifts it about a foot for legal reasons. So looking for consideration of that amendment and permission, authorization for me to sign it, so we can hopefully close this project out for real.
Any comments?
I do have one question. The wall is still on our property, yes? Okay. Sorry, this is my first one of these, everybody.
We want to ask Mr. Brett for the
Yes.
engineer.
Mr. Brett, would you give us the engineer's report?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, I am not there in person, but I think you'll prefer that I wasn't. Little wheel tonight. The only update I have on the engineering is the bid opening for the roads will be April 9th. Advertisement was sent over to Seth today to put in the paper. So that'll give us at our work session in April for Public Works to consider that, and then have that for your May meeting for award. So we'll be early this year as well. I can take any questions on the report.
Mr. Brett, could you talk a little about the advertisement for the bids for the Alcoasand piece?
Oh, yes. So we had a call on the regionalization with Alcoasand probably about 3 months ago, and there is repairs that were identified last summer that still had not been completed on what you were going to be turning over to Alcoasand. These repairs involve mostly lining, a couple spot repairs, and a few manholes that need raised. So we did send over the advertisement as well on that. And we do recommend putting that out to bid. If we can get those repairs made, there was only a couple other items the other communities had. And by the end of the year, you could be rid of those sores permanently. So that would be a good thing for the borough. Any questions on that?
Comments?
Thank you, Mr. Brett. I think that's all we have, Madam President.
Thank you. Well, if there was no one, had no concerns with that, would we be moving forward with that then, Mr. Abrams?
With the Alcoasand, I need to double check in my email, see if we have the advertisement language yet. If we do, I'll get that in the paper. I did already send over for the road bids, because that any bidding needs to be advertised twice. So we want to get it in to the Valley Mirror as soon as possible, as well as anywhere that LSSE advertises.
Yeah, we had that one for mid-April, so you may not got it yet today. It may come out tomorrow, Seth. So,
Thank you, Mr. Fosbrink. Thank you, Kevin.
thank you.
Moving on then to public safety, Mr. Bioki.
Thank you, President Martin. The only item I have is the borough policy for speed humps / traffic calming. The policy is under review by the solicitor. Mr. Corbel has a few suggested changes. They were very minimal. But I'd like to see that move forward for our consideration at the next meeting. Dinger?
I have two comments actually. The policy and that speed hump request don't match in at least two instances. One says speed limit of 25 and the other one says 20. The policy says 60% of a street. The request says 70% of a segment. And I think segment is probably a better way to do because let's say you have Sharon or Fillmore, pretty long streets. It's probably pretty tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, the intent was for it to be 60%.
Okay, so they don't match. basically.
Yes, yeah, we discovered that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah,
My comments are minor in nature, and I just thought that the documents themselves should just be, and this is just my 2 cents, that they should be broadened and not so much speed hump centric, because there are several other calming measures that could be instituted. And when we send Mr. Brett's folks out to take a look at something, they may say, there's no way this can qualify for a speed hump for any number of reasons, but here's 7 other things that we could do there. So, I don't want folks to think, I'm suggesting we broaden it so folks don't think that it's a speed hump or bust, and that they don't expect a speed hump at every opportunity. That's the nature of my commentary.
right. Now, the only thing that I would add to that is that we are limited in what we can do as far as traffic calming on our particular streets, because the bulb outs are impractical unless it's on Greensburg Pike. We can use rumble strips. So, I mean, if we incorporate anything, it's going to be sort of on a limited basis. Mr. Abrams?
I would say you are correct that we are limited today. But that's one of those, and I think council knows where I kind of go on some of this. It doesn't mean that PennDOT may not update it and include other pieces that may be allowable in the future that would fit into the way our streets are carved out.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wait to see your actual write-up here so we can incorporate those features.
I'm sorry. I was somewhere and my computer died and I had the hard copy, so I wrote on them. So I can either enter them, give it to my secretary, someone wants to take them, whatever works.
I will get them added tomorrow and distributed to, do you want them just distributed to public safety for initial review or out to everyone?
I would just do it to everyone.
I will get that out tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams.
Thank you. Mr. Brett, do you have any report under public safety?
The only thing we're working on is the foundation and HOP for the signs. That's the only update I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Is there any old business anyone would like to discuss? Oh, Chief Williams?
Yes, thank you, President Martin. I've spoken to a couple of the members, and I just wanted to let you know that the Woodland Hills School District has asked us to sign an MOU with them with regard to our department and providing whatever we need to do for them in certain cases. Now, I will say we've signed this before. You know, the manager's already received a copy. He's also sent it to the solicitor to review. But we have signed something like this before, and generally what this really means is we would go to assist them if they needed us But again, if we were going to do that, we would probably be requested by Churchill Police to go and assist them prior to the district asking for any assistance. So they're not asking for anything special. They're just asking for us to be part of the group. I guess all the communities in the area have signed this MOU with them. Seems as though they're currently trying to create their own department as well, which I think they have some funding for, but I think they have to deal with their own school board to try to get this all done. But I think this MOU helps them to possibly move forward with that as well. So again, I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that. Tell you that irregardless of whether we sign or don't sign, we will still be responding to their request because it'll be the Churchill Police that'll request us and we would do that.
As a former school administrator, is it the Safe Schools memo under the Safe Schools program?
I think that may be a part of it, but this is really a request for our ability to help them should they need help. And
Right.
again, since we are so close and part of the district, I think that was the point of the effort here to try to get everybody to be on board with that. And again, I know that there's an underlying situation here where they're trying to create this whole self-department, and hopefully they'll be able to do that. And I'd like to see them have that available to them throughout the district. So they, again, most of the districts now seem to be going that direction where they have, let's say, retired officers working for them and doing some of these things as police officers within the district and the schools. So.
My comment was more that it is something that is done like every year and it is a regular thing. And a lot of it is included when you do your special education auditing, that you have to have these things in place to get other grant funds. So I support doing it.
Anybody
Yeah, it
have?
seems like
anything
you
to add?
understand more about it than I do.
If you need anything, chief, call me. I can explain it to you.
Everybody okay with that then?
We'll add that to the agenda as well. And as I said, Mr. Corbels reviewed it. It is actually the template from the Department of Education. It hasn't been modified at all. So they haven't snuck anything special in there on us.
Is there any new business? Okay, then, I'm going to adjourn the meeting by acclamation without objection. Thank you.
See you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Better.